Well, hello, all you fellow nerd knights out there. Welcome to episode 2 of our Hero Quest painting series. We're going to be painting the wizard. Going to do all the main miniatures first and then move on to some other stuff. We're also going to be doing some furniture, a little painting furniture we got coming up here in a little bit. But I want to say thank you to all of our YouTube members. They help monetarily support this channel. You guys are awesome. I can't thank you enough. And if you want to do that, hit that front of that page and join the YouTube membership program. But you could also hit that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber so you don't miss out anything, because we got the rest of Hero Quest to do and a ton of other stuff coming up. All right, let's go. We are going to start with priming our miniature and scraping off the mold lines. Unfortunately, this game's quality is not as high as something like Descent was in the last update, in the last series we were doing. I am finishing that, by the way, so watch that as well. And then we're going to take some earth texture from Vallejo and we're going to put all over that base and then let it dry. So about 10 to 15 minutes to let that dry. Next, we're going to take some black primer in our airbrush. If you don't have this, just use black spray paint from the major brands. And then we're going to use some white primer to get some zenithal highlighting onto our miniature with an emphasis on the base. And you'll see why at the end of the video when we do the base. Alright, the first base color we're going to be doing is going to be some Kislev Flesh on all of our face and hands. For our Wicked Wizardry staff, we're going to be using some Retributor Armour. And again, we're going to be following the card art on this miniature. So we're going to be doing the colorful looking wizard, old school looking wizard, Merlin type wizard that we have on our card art. Next, for our awesome hair, this wizard's got beautiful, gorgeous locks. We're going to be using some Zandri Dust as our base tone. And for our cape, front and back, we're going to be using a 50-50 mix of Xereus Purple and Lamian Medium. You can get away with just using water as a cutting agent for the Xereus Purple if you want. And it's not that big of a deal. So we're going to paint the front and the back to include the hood of the cape in this purple. Next, we're going to put a base coat on our front portion of our wizard shirt and skirt, I guess he's got on. Now, I should have probably done this before I did the cape, and I had realized it's saying, oh crap, I should have done this, but we're doing this now. So we're going to do a couple little dry brushes. So if you're jumping ahead and you haven't started painting your miniature yet, go ahead and do this first. If not, it's not a big deal because you can just go back over it with the paints you just had. So get that Averland Sunset down, and then we're going to take a small dry brush and put some Flash Glitz Yellow onto this front portion. After that, we're going to use some Dorn Yellow. Now, we're doing a little bit of dry brush. We're doing a little bit of stippling. And stippling is just pushing your brush into the actual miniature and forcing that color to look a little bit kind of just not exactly a smooth transition, but kind of rough. And we're going to be going over with this Dorn Yellow in a little bit later in the video, but it's just to kind of get that nice base coat down. Next, for our teal areas, we're going to start with some Sotek Green. And it's going to be your legs and your arms. Again, if you've got yellow on this other stuff, you're just painting right over it. It doesn't really matter. For our leather portions, we're going to be doing some Mournfang Brown, and this is going to include the boots, the gauntlets around our arms, I guess you could say some arm covers, maybe, and then the belt of our wizard, where he keeps all of his wizardry things in his belt pocket. For our wizard's wizardry headband, we're going to be using some iron hand steel and the little cufflinks, or I don't know what they are, silver things on his clavicle bones. For the belt buckle, we're going to be using some Balthasar Gold, just a tiny little snidbit. And to do some pre-highlighting before we put on our washes here, we're going to take some Ushabti Bone and just paint on some highlights on some strands of hair. And you're going to see why we do this here in a minute, as it's going to look so blonde and beautiful and luscious. Now to throw on our legit shades, or as I call them, liquid talent. We're going to take on some Coelia, I don't even know how to say that, Greenshade. And we're going to put that on our blue teal areas. For our skin areas, obviously we're going to be using some Reikland Fleshshade. Pretty simple. And two areas for some Seraphim Sepia, and that's going to be our beautiful hair, and it's going to be on our staff. And then we're going to use some Agrax Earthshade on all of our brown areas. I'm also suggesting to do the step right now of putting your Druchi Violet on all of your purple areas, as I do it later in the video, because I'm going to do something else, but it probably just wouldn't hurt just to put it on right now. So Druchi Violet on all the purple along with all the brown. While you're letting that dry, head over to our Instagram, nerd.nights, and subscribe over there where I'm posting new stuff all the time so you can keep up to date with all the Nerd Nights news. Now we're going to start our highlight steps, where we're going to be doing the first thing is painting some black in our eye sockets. Now I'm doing this all off camera because it's too hard to do it on camera. Next we're going to take some Corax White and put in some white slips, followed by some more black with just little tiny pupils. Now take your time and use a very small brush on this, about a 10-0 brush. Once you have all that done, we're going to start highlighting up our skin. The first thing we're going to be doing is some Kislev Flesh. Now we're focusing on the bridge of the nose, the cheekbones, a tiny bit on the chin, and a little bit on that forehead. We also want to emphasize on our fingers, specifically our fingertips and our knuckles, along with the exposed skin at the neck and the top of the chest. Next, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Kislev Flesh and Flayed One Flesh, and we're going to re-highlight those areas just a little bit smaller this time. Still the bridge of the nose, the cheekbones, a little tiny bit on the chin, and we're going to really focus on those hands, make that our focal point along with the bridge of our nose and our cheekbones. That's going to be the focal point of the face in the miniature. And finally, as a final highlight, just take some pure Flayed One Flesh and put just little bits on the cheekbones and the bridge of the nose, and a little bit on that forehead and the knuckles, a little bit on the fingertips of our wizard. Next, we're going to take our Ushabti Bone and we're going to re-highlight some of those strands of hair for our luscious locks. And we're just picking out hair strands. And remember the ones you picked out. Now you're going to be able to tell because it's going to be lighter than the original Zandri Dust that you put on. So pick out some strands. It doesn't need to be crazy amount, just about half of the head of hair. And for those strands of hair you just painted with Ushabti Bone, take some Pale Witch Flesh and just paint little tiny bits on the middle or the ends of that hair. That's just going to add a nice little lighter look, so when you're looking at it, it looks like he's got pretty blonde hair. We're going to go back to our front portion of our wizard and use some Dorn Yellow and just kind of highlight up just a little bit of the front of this cape or whatever he's got on. Or not a cape, but you know what I'm saying. Tunic, I guess you could say. And we're going to dull it down. Now, if you don't have Dorn Yellow, just take some Averland Sunset, put some white in it, whatever you got to make a dull yellow. Next, we're going to take some Ratskin Flesh. And if you do not have Ratskin Flesh, Jokirio Orange, I think that's how you say it, will work just fine too. We're going to draw our pattern where triangles, the moon on the crescent moon, and then we're going to put a couple stars scattered throughout. Just freehand that on. Take your time on it. As you can tell, our miniature is starting to really come together, and we're going to be focusing on the brown portions now. We're only going to be doing one highlight. We're going to use Gorthor Brown. This is going to be a very subtle highlight. It's more or less just to dull it down a tad bit. So we're going to put this on all of our leather portions of our miniature. Now we're going to highlight up the teal areas of our miniature, and the first thing we're going to be doing is putting a reapplication of Sotek Green on almost all of the teal. Do not get any in the recesses, let those just stay a little bit darker than the raised portions. Next, take a 50-50 mix of Sotek Green and Temple Guard Blue, and we're going to be focusing on those raised areas, building up our teal color highlight. Next, take some pure Temple Guard Blue. I know you're probably thinking it's blue, but it's very tealish. And we're going to put this onto a raised portions of our miniature, specifically the knees and the thighs and the top part of the biceps of our miniature to really heighten that up. And when you get that in the light, it really looks like a teal color and with some light versus dark in the recesses. And for the staff, we're going to take some Liberator Gold and put it on our raised areas of our staff. Now this is going to give it a nice bright color, kind of like what we want anyway, because we want it to look bright and vibrant. For the belt buckle, we're just going to take some Gehenna's gold and highlight up that real quick, and then a reapplication of Iron Hand Steel on our silver pieces. Now, like I said earlier, to put that Druchi Violet on all the purple, including the cape, I'm doing that now. And if you waited like I did, you gotta wait for it to dry. So about 10 minutes for it to dry. Once that is completely dry, we're going to take a 50-50 mix of Genestealer Purple and Lamian Medium, and we're going to start building up highlights on this purple. Purple is a hard color for me to paint. I don't exactly enjoy it that much. It's not as easy to do on a white primed miniature. It's easier to do on a black primed miniature since it's such a dark color, but we're going to work with what we got. We're going to be working this color on multiple layers, about 3 to 4 layers onto our cape. We're going to specifically focus on the raised areas only. While you're doing this, let it dry completely, then put the next layer on. Once you got all the raised areas you would like painted, add a brushful of Corax White into that mixture of Lamian Medium and Genestealer Purple and go over the same areas you just went on. When you do this, do it less than what you did before. So you want to build up those highlights. Let it dry, paint some more on. Rinse, wash, repeat. Don't actually wash it. That's a very terrible analogy to use or saying. With the highlights all done, we're coming to the finish line here pretty quick. We're going to take some Aggaros Dunes, which is a contrast paint from Citadel, and we're going to put that on the bottom of our base. Now, obviously, this is where we put the earth texture. There we go. And we're just going to paint that on. You can already see an easy highlight that is already sticking through, and that's why we did the white. Next, take some Militarium Green and put a couple dollops, one in the front and one in the back, and you'll see why we're doing this in a second. And once that thing's about dry, about 10 minutes, maybe 5, depending where you live, put a couple dollops of super glue, and then we're going to put some tufts down. The front, I'm going to put a green tuft, and in the back, I'm going to add some nice, beautiful yellow flowers. I feel like this wizard is a nature wizard, and nature likes to grow around him. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And finally, your favorite part of painting this miniature, the rim of the base, because that means we're done using Abaddon Black. If you want to use brown or gray or whatever you want to use, do that. But hit that whole base. It took me 2 coats for that, and then we are done. Look how God, you did good. I bet yours looks more amazing than mine did, but you did it. I'm sure it looks fantastic. I just want to say thank you for everybody who watches this channel, who supports it, who leaves a comment, who, donates. You guys are awesome. I can't thank you enough. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. We have so many games to do in the coming years, so stay tuned. But until next episode, paint on.